now that we are doing this, right, I feel like we should propagate this feeling of empowerment to talk about design, regardless of your experience.
Yes,
And I mean, like, it's really
precisely.
for the betterment of the community, right? Then everyone be more
Yes.
mindful
Also,
about it.
to give a Asian representative in this space.
Yeah.
Welcome to day one of to the
Welcome.
Kiasu Design Life. I'm Adilah,
I'm Shen.
and we are your hosts for this brand new podcast.
Yay! Woo!
So finally, day one of the Kiasu Design Life is here after much planning. We started planning since which month was it? Early this year, right? If
I
you
guess it
can
was
recall.
like 1.5 months ago. Yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah. It was coming to the fasting month, and I told you I
Yes.
cannot do it because it's fasting month. Then Hari Raya, then I was busy with that. As you guys can tell from the show's name, we are based in sunny Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
Being Kiasu is part of our identity, which also translates to scared to lose.
Mm.
Yeah, so we are two UX designers who are passionate and kiasu in our design life.
Very gassy.
Hence we decided to take a leap of faith and produce this podcast.
So, what to expect in this podcast, right? Because we do see this podcast as more of a forum that encourages very casual and open discourse about product and design. Because both of us, we are doing product design. So, yeah, so
Yes.
that's where we want to touch on. But wait, there's more. So I mean, on top of talking about product and design, we definitely want to inject some very local flavors to this. That is also a reason why we decided to name our podcast Kiasu Design Life, right? There's some sort of, like, if you are like Singaporean or maybe Malaysian, then you definitely will resonate with this title of
Yeah,
the podcast.
I know, definitely.
So maybe one example, if I could throw it out, about the local flavors, right, in our podcast is maybe we can talk about the rise of otters in local apps. So let's say from
Yes.
Trace Together, last time Trace Together, right? If you're listening in year 3000,
3,000.
COVID happened, right? So Trace Together introduced this otter character, and Singaporeans are pretty emotionally attached to it.
Mm,
And now Trace Together is not as relevant, right? It kind of drop
mm,
hop to being a SingPass mascot. So that is something that
yes.
it's quite interesting for us to talk about, right? Yeah.
Definitely. I find the author was a very clever design. Not just design, not only designers noticed it, but even the normal citizens, like non-designers actually noticed it as well.
Mm.
So I think they were quite popular, and some like mainstream media picked it up, and then like even saying, oh, you can see the author here, you can see the author there, and then they started to create this collection of like where you can spot the author.
Yeah. So I mean, otter is a bit of an identity for us, right? Like when you go to Bishan Park. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you will look forward to seeing an otter, right? So I guess that.
Actually, it just made me realize there was this one time I went jogging, and then I thought I saw a snake in the longkang near my house,
Uh-huh.
and I was actually quite scared about it. And then when I looked closer, it's actually otter. There was like a family of 5 otters swimming
Oh.
inside it in the drain, and then I was like, wow, so cute.
Yeah, so I think what's beautiful to me, right, between us is our dynamic, right? So, Adilah, you
Mm.
are a career switcher into UX design, right?
Yes, yes, correct. I've been a designer for the past 12 years, believe it or not. It's just that I've been doing mostly website design and development.
Mm.
And then the past 5 years, I've been freelancing on my own. And then now I decided I want to go back into joining a company and then
Mm.
working in a team. How about yourself?
I mean, I've been in the industry for 7, close to 8 years.
Mm.
So I was an industrial designer. Then I shifted into doing UX design, or you can call it product design,
Mm-hmm.
early in my career. So I really anticipate to see like this diversity in our content, like given
Mm-hmm.
the differences in our backgrounds, right?
So when you say that you were an industrial designer, does that mean you did like actual product design,
Physical
physical
products.
products?
So industrial
I
design
see.
means not only physical products but mass produced designs. Yeah.
Mass
So
produced designs.
yeah,
Okay.
so we have to we have to study how things are being manufactured in order to
Mm-hmm.
design them. So it's very similar to product design, like digital product design, right? It's a bonus if you know how things are being produced, so you
Mm-hmm.
can
Mm-hmm.
design realistically.
Mm,
Mm.
yeah, I think that's actually quite useful because since like UX design is a whole spectrum of it can be digital and it can be even service, you can even be space, and the fact that you actually have industrial design background, which is quite useful because you can tap on all the different aspects of design as a whole experience, not just digital. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of transferable skills. Yeah.
Skills, yeah,
Mm.
definitely. Ah, okay, okay, okay. It's nice. Yeah, I just realized that were an industrial designer. How
Oh,
come this never came up in our conversations before
yeah, how
this?
come? We are close, by the way, listeners. No, just
Yes,
kidding.
we are close. Don't
We are
worry.
close.
It's just that there are certain gaps of knowledge. Yeah, we will talk about our background and how we got together. Anyway, yeah. So we are definitely gonna share our stories and experience as designers in work and in life.
Hmm.
Personally, for me, I am a young mother of two. So I have a
Yeah.
5-year-old and a 2-year-old coming to two. So all the time I will be telling Xuan, okay, let me get my girls to sleep and we start recording, or let me settle the girls and I
Yeah.
meet you for a call. Yeah, so it's always trying to work with real life things in life.
Mm.
Yeah, so for this podcast, of course, we're going to talk about UX design related events, products, maybe hone a specific UX process, how to present your work, and maybe work better with other stakeholders, and definitely with design tools that we find online.
Mm.
And also, we want to make this podcast even more colorful. So we are planning different formats.
Yeah, different formats. I guess over time, maybe listeners will be quite sick of us talking to each other, right? So maybe we can pull in thought leaders, right, in the industry. Maybe do an interview style, just to know more about their design life, how they approach their work. Maybe polls as well, right? And we were discussing, like maybe
Yes.
we can just throw like a random question out to the community, gather
Mm-hmm.
some results, and then we can just talk about it.
Yeah, you can share all the different perspectives. I mean, it's always fun to know about other people's perspective as well, and maybe what happened during the conversations online
Hmm.
and in Telegram chats. Yeah, sometimes I do follow those design. Do you follow design Telegram chat, the design SG one?
Oh, I actually didn't know there's a Telegram chat for
Yeah, you
design.
didn't know?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So there's a product design Telegram chat and there's a design SG Telegram chat. Yeah, maybe I should send
Oh.
you the links later. Yeah, so sometimes they have very interesting discussions when someone just say a certain statement and then like
Mm.
other people chime in and say, yeah. So it's quite interesting to
Mm.
see. So what's our plan? As you can see, we are in an experimental phase right now. We want to get our show out to the world to see if it sticks. Yeah.
Yes.
For now, we'll be posting 1 to 2 episodes every month,
Mhm.
and this is subjected to changes because this is our passion project.
We can see.
So we
We see.
will, yes. So we are trying to do it more quality over quantity. We want to do it in our free time, and
Mm.
also to make sure that the things that we bring about is good lah. Yeah.
Mm. And also, we want to iterate quickly, right?
Yes.
We are building upon feedback. Definitely, we want to get it out and listen to what other people see and see how we can improve.
We did do research of other podcasts about their style of conversing, about their style of show, even the duration and all that.
Hmm.
So this is our first time. Let's see how long it will take.
Yep, yep.
How did our podcast started? So as I mentioned, also we are both in Figma Friends Singapore.
Friends of Figma.
Shout out friends of what did I say? Friends of I said the
Figma
opposite way
friends.
again. I keep making this mistake.
No, no, maybe we should message friends of Figma, tell them to change their name. There's a reason
I
why
think
it
it's
sticks the other way.
I keep saying it the opposite way. This is the second time speaking to you, and I say it the opposite way. So funny. Yeah. So it's friends of Figma, not Figma of friends. Yeah. So as I was saying, we are from friends of Figma.
Very intentional.
And yes, yes.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of it. I mean, I know about Figma, but I wasn't aware that there was friends of Figma Singapore.
Mm,
I knew Zoe, who was the person behind the Singapore community. It was, I think, Zoe started it, and
shout
then
out to
I
Zoe,
could,
man.
yes, shout out to Zoe. You're doing a great job. I only met her online through Clubhouse. When Clubhouse just started, then all everyone just jumped into the wagon, right? And then there was some Clubhouse rooms for designers.
Right.
So and then I think there was one local one, and then that's where I met Zoe, and then we spoke to each other, and from Clubhouse we connected on LinkedIn, and then from LinkedIn she personally DM me an invite to the Discord server. So
Oh,
I was like,
wow.
oh, okay, this is interesting. Then she was saying, oh, why not just join? It's still just a few members. We are just getting this started. So, yeah, so then I joined from there. Then the rest is history. Then that's why I met you as well.
Interesting to see how many products are interweaved in your description just now. You
Yeah,
went from
precisely.
Clubhouse to LinkedIn to
And
Discord.
then yes, and it's
Oh,
all for Figma.
Figma. Yes.
So how did you join Figma or friends? Friends of Figma. See Figma friends again.
Because I think back then there was a UXSG
Mm,
community, right?
yes,
And
yes.
that kind of dwindled. Following that is the Friends of Figma. So I really like being in communities and just like, vibing with all the designers, talking about all things
Mm,
design, right? I think this space is very important. That's also how we two came about, right? Because
yeah,
both of us expressed our interest in doing podcasts.
podcasting.
Yeah, and then Zoe was the one who she's like an oracle, she just like brought two of us together.
Funnily enough, actually, we wanted to set up our own podcast. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
respectively, we had an idea to set up our own podcast. So
Mm,
I had an idea something creative related. I didn't think of product design or UX design back then, and
mm,
I wasn't sure what was yours though. But I just knew that we had this in mind to do the
mm,
podcast separately. And then a year later, we reconnected again, and then I
mm.
asked you, "Hey, how's your podcast progress?" And then I gave this guilty laugh because I was like, I haven't started mine. How about you? And then you were saying, what did you say?
I was saying, yes, I'm on the same boat as you, and I gave that, that emoji with the smile with a sweat.
Yeah,
You
so
always give that emoji when you're saying very
guilty.
paiseh, right?
Oh yeah, please stop I
it's
say,
a it's
yeah,
a
yeah.
paiseh, in a way it's guilty expression. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, precisely.
yeah, I bought my mic, but I don't think there's anything that progressed after that.
Yeah, the two of us decided to just come together. Actually, for me personally, back then it was back in 2019. I had plans to do a podcast, and then it was supposed to be with at least another designer. She's a brand
Oh.
designer. I'm not sure why. I think we got busy, and
Mm.
because she's also a young mother of two, and then we
Oh, wow.
find it very difficult to find a common date to get started.
Mm.
Then 2020 happened, which is COVID. Then I had my second child in
Mm.
2020, and then 2021, and now 22. So it's been what, 4 years? 2019, yeah, it's been 4 years ago. The idea for a podcast idea came about to me 4 years ago. It's been sitting around. Only I started, and we decided to do something about it now.
Yeah, I think now is a good time. And I think it's coming together, right? The two of us really keeps us both accountable.
Mm.
The past 1.5 months, since we first planned, the velocity that we had, right, in our progress, right, is much, much higher than when I was doing it alone. That's why when I see
Mm.
people doing it alone, that's when I really have huge respect for them, because
Yeah, I
that
know.
level of like self-driven determination, right, must be so damn huge, right?
Yeah, precisely, precisely. I mean, it's not easy to be podcasting alone because you feel that you are talking to a void. You are
Yeah.
you have to hype yourself up. You have to be excited by yourself, and you have to, I don't know, come up with conversations on your own. I do listen to other podcasters where they do this very well, and they sound
Mhm.
so intriguing, very good. Yeah, but I guess because it comes with practice, of course.
Oh, speaking of this, this is something I do. I also
Yeah,
like to
yeah.
talk to myself when I'm doing design. because I feel like
Oh, okay.
because if you don't have another person, another designer as like a sounding board, right?
Mm.
So I will be two characters and just talk to myself and explain the design to myself. And I switch the character, and then it's as though the other character of me, right, has a fresh set of eyes and has not seen the design at all. Yeah.
Okay,
So that's
okay.
something I do. Because nowadays I go to the office and work, right? Then I will just go into a room and do it. Because I feel like other people will will look at me strangely like, what the heck? Why is this person talking to
So
us?
so are you presenting to your the other self, or the other things going through your mind and you're just quiet?
I need to say it out.
Oh, say it out.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I
Instead of
see.
describing my
Actually, it's quite,
design.
yeah. Actually, it's quite true because I cannot recall what happened back then, but there was one point of time I did have to do that. When I find that when I keep it to myself and it's just running in my head, you think it's fine, but only when you say it out, then you piece it together, then you find, hey, it sounds wrong, or it doesn't flow as
Yeah.
well when you thought of it in your head. We had a like a run through with my team to before we presented to a client. What I thought in my head was fine, but then only
Mm,
when I presented out to my friends, I mean to my
mm,
teammates, that I realized actually, hey, it's not as clear as I think. I mean, it's I'm close to the solution, so I know how it feels like when you're trying to say it out to someone who is outside of the
right.
problem or outside of the idea. You have to make it even more simpler for them to understand. Correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like when it's in your brain, it tends to be a
Mm.
bit fuzzy, and you'll just skim through the details, right? But if you
Mm-hmm,
were to
mm-hmm.
kind of transport whatever that's on your brain to your, let's say, your mouth, to talk
Yeah.
about it, or your hands, right, to kind of manifest it, right, in
Yeah.
certain way, then I think that intention of doing, right, really gets you very aware of the details. And
Mm.
that's where you catch all the
Mm.
things you may overlook in
Mm.
your
Mm.
brain. Yeah. So
Mm. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
very interesting. I mean, I think that's something that we can definitely talk about, right?
Yes. Okay, so why do we want to start a podcast? I think we touched on it a bit. I guess we can expand a bit more.
I'm not sure if this is a little known fact to me and my friends. I told some of them before. I used to be a
Mm-hmm.
radio DJ. Uh, have you heard of Habbo Hotel?
No, I haven't heard of it. It sounds like a
Okay.
game. Is it a game?
It's a community game. So it's actually one of a kind. I mean, I'm revealing my age now. Habbo Hotel. Everyone who can resonate with Habbo Hotel, you know age, by the way. So like it's a community game where you create a character and then you just
Mm-hmm.
walk around this virtual hotel and meet other people. So back then, Habbo Hotel has like different fan sites. Because there's different fan sites, in order to make themselves more competitive, they will have like resident DJs to help them get more engagement. So that was one of my roles back then, to play alternative hits because I was like a fan of alternative rock. I was trying to be a hipster, like like when you're young, you want to listen to music that no one has heard of.
Mm.
So that was when I first dabbled with audio. So like,
Mm-hmm.
taking sampling music and then mixing together to create like jingles. So I thought that was really fun.
Ah,
That was when I
okay.
was like super excited with anything audio related. And then I guess that was when I
Mm.
started to just find others resources. And that's where I stumbled upon this thing
Mm-hmm,
called
mm-hmm.
Radio Lab. And that was when, like, because before that I was dabbling with audio,
Mm.
right? And that's your standard. And then when I discovered Radio Lab, I was
Yep.
like, oh my God, like, how can something that is just audio, right? Because audio is really just one form of sense, right? And how can it be so immersive?
Mm. Yes, correct.
Like, it really draws you into the story. And I think, like,
Yeah.
it's two things, right? One is they managed to find a sound that matches their narrative. Second is they managed to
Yes.
execute it so well. After that,
Mm.
I was just like a
Yeah,
fan of
yeah.
podcasts. Because I mean, I was a strong believer lah in good storytelling with audio. And then
Mm.
I have been like discovering new podcasts ever since lor.
Channels. I see.
Yeah.
Were you like loyal to maybe one topic or one genre?
Oh, so the magic, right, about Radio Lab is they are able to make anything sound good. Like they can talk about politics, right? Which I'm
And it
mildly
sounds good.
interested in. Yeah. And it just draws you in. Like you really are invested in the
Ah.
content. Yeah, and you
I
find
see. I
yourself
see.
like Googling about whatever they say thereafter. Yeah,
Mm.
so I think with Radio
Yeah.
Lab, and I guess like that's probably our goal as well. I know, okay, stretch goal,
Yes.
scratch goal. Yeah,
Yeah.
really inspirational. Shout out
Mm.
to Radio Lab. And I mean, like, over the years, there are like so many design podcasts now, right? For me, that is a directory to finding new designers, new
Mm-hmm.
ideologies,
Yeah.
and from there, you find even more podcasts, channels.
Yes.
It's very compounding to me. The effect you will just unlock yourself to more of this, and you can listen while you are doing
Mm.
anything, like when you're cleaning,
Yeah,
cleaning the
precisely.
house, doing makeup.
I love to listen to podcasts when I'm doing my house chores. It
Mm.
makes my house chores duties go even faster. The time
Yeah.
goes even faster. Yeah, I feel like I'm doing. I mean, of course, doing chores is a good thing, but of course, when you are listening to something, you feel like you're learning as well.
Yeah.
And I normally have to stand by a notebook by the side in case I want to jot down things.
Wow. Wow. You're such a hardworking listener. To me, I'm just like, okay.
No,
Sounds
because
great.
the rate of things I listen to, sometimes I will forget, hey, which show did I listen this from? What from which episode was this from? Or was
Uh,
at which point was it? I want to listen to it again. Then I will just like quickly
mm.
take down.
Over time, listening to so many podcasts, and I think that will also help to open your mind and get you
Mm,
to initiate talking about design with other people. So when I was
yes.
in office, that is what I do. Like, when you talk to other designers, then you can kind of just
Yeah.
drop a certain topic. It's basically like a mini podcast going on over there, just that it's not recorded
Mm,
lah. So my
yeah, it's not recorded.
hypothesis
Yeah.
with all this thing that happened is that
Yeah.
actually people really love talking about design, but there may
Yes.
not be like an official forum for them to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Uh-huh.
everyone I talk to, right, they are really passionate about it. Honestly, I feel like this feeling should be captured, right? And I want
Yes.
like individual designers to really feel empowered to speak design.
Mm,
Yeah. I think back then, I also share it in the Friends of Figma. Like I do have the idea of starting a podcast. Just that
mm-hmm.
sometimes I wake up, right? And then I ask
Mm-hmm.
myself, oh, what gives me the right to talk about design?
Ah, I
Yeah.
see. That sounds a bit like imposter syndrome when you start questioning yourself.
Yes.
Start questioning, who am I? Who want to listen to me?
Yeah,
Hmm.
like why would anyone spare that, let's say 30, 40 minutes, right? To listen to me
Mm,
talk about design, like when everywhere else, right, there's people who are,
much more
yeah,
qualified to
much more
us. Much more
qualified to
qualified
talk
than
about
us.
design. I think that was one of the barrier back then when I
Mm,
was thinking of doing a podcast. But yeah, now that we are doing this, right, I feel like we should propagate this feeling of empowerment to talk about
mm-hmm.
design, regardless of your experience. And I
Yes,
mean, like, it's really for
precisely.
the betterment of the community, right? Then everyone be more
Yes.
mindful
Also,
about it.
to
Mm.
give a Asian representative in this space,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, because I find, I mean, there are a lot of very good design podcasts, but it's always very skewed towards
Western.
Western, and it's always talking about what is happening there, and then maybe when they have the little small talk in the beginning, in the start of their
Mm.
shows, they're always having a small talk about, oh, what they did over the weekend, or how was the weather there. Then I was like, okay, it's nice to know, but I wish I was listening to someone who had maybe knew about something happening at, the recent market here, or NTUC, or I don't know, for example. Yeah, and then it will be much more interesting because you feel like, oh, okay, it's funny, and I can totally relate it because I know about the incident. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I felt. But okay, then how about personally? Why did you wanna, what I mean, apart from, okay, for the greater good, for the community, for
All
other
the
things,
noble stuff.
but how? Yes,
What's a selfish
yes, of
agenda?
course. So how personally, what is in it for you as well? What do you feel?
Personally, I wanna improve my communication skills, and to me lah, I feel like I don't really articulate my what's on my mind very well. So I see this as like a good practice as well. So hopefully, because we are
Mm,
what day one of Kiasu Design Life, right? Maybe we check in in day
yes.
100. Do a compare and contrast of your communication
Yeah,
skills.
precisely.
Yeah.
I think your personal goal is actually similar to my
Mm,
personal goal. It happened when I was on Clubhouse.
right.
So back then, when I decided to join Clubhouse, it was more of because I wanted to put myself out there and then practice speaking to other people.
Mm.
I don't know I don't know whether you know this, but actually I am a bit of an introvert, but I can be an extrovert. So I am an ambivert. Yeah.
Extroverted
So
introvert.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, something like that. So, people may think I'm quiet, but when you get to know me even
Mm.
closer and in smaller groups, I will be the more lively one. Yeah.
Ah,
So I felt that when I was participating in the clubhouse rooms back then last year, I actually had to get ready to speak. Like I was telling myself, okay,
the
it's my turn soon.
spontaneous,
Okay,
yeah.
find a calm room with quiet space and then speak. And
Mm,
then when I'm speaking, I tend to talk very fast because
mm,
I'm nervous. One, and then I find that I have to make sure I have my points ready so that when I speak, I'm bringing value to the conversation.
right.
Yeah. So from there, I decided I think maybe podcasting can help me with my communication as well.
Mm, mm.
Yeah. I ever received feedback that one of my instructors said that in terms of communication wise, I'm decent. So I guess I'm good enough.
Can be.
Can be better, definitely.
Yeah, but how
Yes.
about you, Adila? Like, what is the reason for you wanting to start a podcast?
Okay. The first one that I already mentioned about improving my communication
Mm,
skills. Secondly, because I find that there is not a lot of representation of myself as a minority
mm,
Malay
mm,
speaking designer out in the podcasting world. I mean, there are, but they speak in Malay,
mm.
and they're not really they are not they touch on current affairs, you see,
Oh.
or maybe they touch a bit on maybe more like entertainment, so not really a lot on product design. So this,
Mm,
I would say this will be, I'm one of the few ones. I'm not trying
mm,
to be
mm.
unique in any way. Yeah. So it's just because I haven't found anyone yet. So that's why I thought, why not just embrace the challenge and do it yourself? Yeah.
Mm,
So I find that also because when I got into freelancing, podcast became my number one resource for knowledge on entrepreneurship, design, marketing. So
yeah.
I often listen to it while doing other things. And I mentioned about doing house chores, I listen to podcasts.
Mm,
And sometimes I find that when, I mean, I do write. I know I sometimes write on Medium articles, but
mm,
sometimes people, they maybe they have too much to read, you see. And there's too much noise as well when you
mm,
are trying to read something and then you're distracted by a message coming in, distracted by email. But when you are on podcast, when you are listening to a podcast, your focus is just listening to that one piece of information.
mm, mm,
And of course, unless you get a call in
mm,
between
mm,
the podcast listening. Yeah, so that's why I thought it would be great to have my voice out there, and then someone who may look like me or sound like me might listen to
mm.
me and say, hey, I resonate with her, I
Yeah.
like her message, or I totally agree with her, this sort of thing.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
And on top of that, the fact that when you listen to podcasts of other designers, especially maybe thought leaders or product leads, or maybe even people who are just maybe just one level ahead of you in product
mm,
design,
mm,
in terms of UX design as well, I find that you can easily capture and learn the language in much more easily rather than you are just reading a book or maybe signing up for a course.
mm,
Because when
mm.
you hear people speak,
Right.
and then the way they use the language of the industry,
Terminologies.
and then
Mm,
yeah, the terminology,
mm,
especially, then you start to think, oh, okay, that's one way to put it. Oh, okay, so this is one term that I've never heard before. Maybe
mm,
I can do a bit more research on it.
mm,
Yeah, and it's very helpful for me because like recently, someone actually gave me feedback. So there was some interview questions practice that I had to do. When he gave me a question, I was answering it from my perspective of marketing because I was so used from that web design, development, marketing
right.
things, for the business
Mm.
things. And he was saying that you should mention more about from the product
Ah,
lens, like how it, yeah, how it lends how it can make it a better product, and then
mm,
like use more product terms. Then I was like telling myself, how do I improve on this? Then I realized, oh, actually I can do that. And then just so happened I was listening to, I think, some podcast that you recommended, and then the designer spoke about road mapping, product road mapping, and all
Mm.
this. Then I was thinking, hey, I've heard of this term before. Why am I not using it in my in my day to day or in my language? Yeah, so I decided, actually podcasting is really good for you to
Yeah.
listen and then actually absorb all this. Like I was saying, we can be sponge to just soak up
Yep.
all these different knowledge and even words and vocab for you to use.
Yeah. Do you feel like when you listen to podcasts, right? Do you feel like you are there with them in the room to
Sometimes.
bask in their energy?
Yeah.
Right.
There was this. It was a local podcast. It wasn't related to design, but the person that they were interviewing was really very inspiring. His name is Najib Ali. I don't know whether you heard of him before. He is one of a Singapore icon, and then he gave very thought provoking things for us to think about.
Mm.
Like he gives observations of how he went to Japan, and then he brought what he learned in Japan to Singapore, and how he was trying to make the media industry better for
Oh,
the
wow.
Malays here.
Mm.
Yeah, so I mean, even though it's not related directly to my industry, but I still learn a lot of things, which inspired me a lot after the podcast. So every time when I'm doing work, right, and I want to be inspired, sometimes I will go back to that.
Oh,
I'll go
nice.
back to the episode and just give it a listen. Yeah, that's what I do it sometimes.
Right. So I guess we come to the end of our day one of our Kiasu Design Life.
How do you guys want to provide feedback? So basically, we decided to set up a Twitter account, and we will announce latest episodes, and then you can give us feedback on our past episodes. So not just that, we are going to do polls on our Twitter, on that Twitter account.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can you tell us what is the Twitter account?
At Kiasu Design Life. Basically, the name of our podcast.
Yes, yeah. We hope to catch you guys again on our next episode.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.